I don't know if it was a shock or not. I mean, it's 11 years ago now, and it was not easy, and it was the shock was when he didn't show up and the issues that he was having again, and that was the shock, and then that was the disappointment.
For decades, Jon Bon Jovi has been a rock icon known as much for his music as his personal life. But recently he broke his long-held silence on a deeply private matter involving romance and betrayal. What happens when two legendary figures in music and Hollywood collide off-stage in a drama much more intense than any chart-topping hit? Could there be more to their history than fans ever imagined? This surprising revelation not only challenges what we thought we knew, but also sparks a conversation about trust, loyalty, and the price of fame behind the glitz and glamour. The revelation's impact. When Jon Bon Jovi finally spoke out about Diane Lane and Richie Sambora, it shocked longtime fans and celebrity watchers alike. He revealed a deeply personal story involving trust, betrayal, and heartbreak. The kind of drama that rarely escapes the private circles of Hollywood and music royalty. This disclosure wasn't just idle gossip. It touched on long-buried feelings and a fractured friendship. For years, the public had only glimpsed snippets of these interactions, but now the full weight of the situation began to surface. Jon's statement was surprising, not just because of what was said, but who it involved. Diane Lane, an acclaimed actress known for her grace and poise, and Richie Sambora, Jon's former bandmate and close friend, were central figures in this unexpected narrative. To hear that tangled emotions and accusations played out between these icons added a compelling new layer to their public personas. It reminded everyone that fame often masks complicated personal realities. The revelation also raised questions about how much fans truly know about their favorite stars. Behind the flashbulbs and sold-out arenas, there can be strained relationships and painful betrayals. Jon's courage to speak openly after decades of silence invited empathy and curiosity in equal measure. It showed a vulnerability that contrasted sharply with his rock star image, making the story even more gripping. Yet Jon was careful not to reveal every detail immediately. His approach suggested there was more beneath the surface, something that would explain motivations and consequences yet to be uncovered. This air of mystery kept the audience hooked, eager to understand the roots of this emotional turmoil. It felt less like entertainment and more like someone's real-life reckoning. The impact of such a candid admission, especially from someone with Jon's stature, rippled far beyond tabloid headlines. It touched on universal themes: betrayal by those close to us, the clash between personal and public life, and the struggle to find closure. His words prompted fans to reconsider their assumptions about loyalty among friends and lovers in the spotlight. It also challenged the idea that success and happiness always go hand in hand. Jon's status as a global star hadn't shielded him from deeply personal pain. Instead, it highlighted that emotional wounds can be universal, crossing the boundaries between celebrity and everyday life. The revelation felt raw because it was so human. The story opened a window to examine how friendships evolve under pressure, especially in creative partnerships. Jon and Richie had shared decades of music history, which complicated feelings of betrayal. Naming Diane Lane as part of this story introduced a third, unexpected element that made the situation even more tangled. Listeners were left wondering how this affected Jon personally and professionally over the years. Was this a moment of closure or the beginning of a new chapter? The intrigue grew, setting the stage for a deeper dive into Jon's relationships and the people involved. As these personal revelations settled in, the story naturally led to the background of Jon Bon Jovi's connection with Diane Lane, a key piece of this emotional puzzle. Jon and Diane's relationship. Jon Bon Jovi and Diane Lane's paths crossed in the high-pressure worlds of Hollywood and rock music, creating a complex connection fueled by mutual respect and attraction. Though their relationship was never officially confirmed as romantic by either party, rumors and public fascination linked them closely over the years. Their interactions reflected the blend of intimacy and distance that often characterizes relationships between celebrities. Both had successful careers that demanded intense dedication, yet their worlds occasionally collided through social events, industry gatherings, and mutual acquaintances. Diane's reputation as a talented actress, with a charismatic presence combined with Jon's rock star charm, made their connection palpable to observers. Fans speculated about whether there was something more beneath their public appearances. The details of their time together remained vague, but Jon's recent comments hinted at emotional complexities that went far beyond casual acquaintanceship. He suggested that trust was broken in a way that cut deeply, reshaping how he viewed a once-close relationship. This added a new dimension to Diane Lane's image, portraying her as a figure caught in a painful love triangle. Despite the ambiguity, Jon never publicly criticized Diane until his latest revelation. Previous comments were marked by respect and admiration, which made this shift even more significant. It suggested that whatever happened between them had simmered under the surface for years, eventually reaching a point where silence was impossible to maintain. Their relationship highlighted the complications of friendship and love, particularly when new pairings are intertwined with old ones. Jon and Diane's relationship was not only characterized by personal attraction, but also by shared situations of living through challenging public careers. The burden of public scrutiny likely escalated the underlying disputes, thus making secret betrayals even more painful to endure. To comprehend their relationship, one has to admit that the parts played by each in the other's lives at different times, sometimes near, other times far away, but always powerful, had to be considered. Diane's functional role in Jon's plot was always that of a central character. She was the one who brought the moment of tenderness in the pretty hard and rather noiseless fight between them. This perspective made it easier to understand Jon's choice of the occasion for his venting. Diane's personal timeline became a point of reference for the fans as they noted her marriages and public appearances and asked how these matched up to Jon's disclosures. This was a very lively story because new details came out and different narratives developed at the same time. On the one hand, the uncertainty brought about more speculation, and at the same time, it was a reminder of the difficult situation that celebrities find themselves in when they have to deal with both the public and their personal suffering. Jon's thoughts eventually pointed to a relationship that was characterized by genuine connection but betrayal at the same time. This very tension was what enabled a proper understanding of the complicated role of Richie Sambora in the story. As the story unfolded further, Richie Sambora's place in Jon's life and the emotional entanglement with Diane became impossible to ignore. Richie Sambora's role. Richie Sambora was not just a bandmate to Jon Bon Jovi. For decades, they were creative partners and close friends, sharing the highs and lows of rock stardom. Their bond went beyond music, making any personal conflict between them doubly painful. Richie's relationship with Diane Lane added an unexpected layer of complexity to this already intricate dynamic. As Jon revealed, Richie and Diane were involved in a way that deeply hurt him. This introduced themes of loyalty and betrayal that transcended typical celebrity gossip. The fact that Richie, whom Jon once trusted as a brother, was part of this story made the emotional wounds sharper and more complicated. Fans had watched the duo's brotherly relationship evolve over the years, making this news all the more impactful. Richie's role was not just as a romantic rival, but also as someone intertwined in a web of professional and personal connections. His exit from Bon Jovi's band years ago had left questions about the reasons behind their falling out. Jon's recent comments hinted that personal betrayals, including those involving Diane Lane, contributed to that fracture. The intersection of their relationships blurred boundaries between friendship, love, and ambition. Richie's relationship with Diane appeared to create a fissure that neither he nor Jon could easily mend. Such situations underscore how complicated personal lives become when mixed with intense working partnerships and shared history. Richie himself has been relatively private about this matter, choosing not to publicly address the claims in detail. This silence adds to the intrigue, inviting speculation, but also respecting boundaries. His focus has remained on his music and family, suggesting he may prefer to handle personal issues away from the spotlight. However, Jon's openness cast a shadow on Richie's image for some fans, challenging the perception of unwavering loyalty within the band. It reminded everyone that even the strongest friendships can be tested by unexpected betrayals. The emotional toll of such events often lasts longer than the public realizes. This tangled personal triangle also highlights how fame can amplify private conflicts. Having two celebrities involved layered the situation with public attention and potential pressures from fans and media alike. It became clear that the story was as much about fractured trust as it was about famous names. Richie's role in Jon's revelation elevated the narrative from a simple love story to a complex drama about friendship, betrayal, and the price they both paid. These elements set the stage for understanding how the public and media responded to Jon's shocking disclosure. The ripples of this revelation were felt far beyond their inner circle, sparking reactions that reshaped public perception. Echoes across the spotlight. When Jon Bon Jovi's revelation about Diane Lane and Richie Sambora surfaced, it quickly captured widespread attention from both the media and fans around the world. Headlines flared across social platforms and entertainment news outlets, dissecting every nuance of the story. This was not just a celebrity scandal, it was a real-life drama involving iconic figures, which naturally sparked intense public interest. Many followers found themselves re-examining their perceptions of Jon, Diane, and Richie in light of these unexpected disclosures. The media response was swift, with various outlets analyzing the possible implications for all involved. Some framed Jon's words as a brave act of transparency, while others suggested the timing and motivations could be strategic. Interviews and opinion pieces flooded in, often highlighting the complicated nature of long-term relationships among celebrities who share both personal and professional ties. The story offered rich material for deeper conversations about trust and fame. Fans voiced mixed emotions on social media platforms. Supporters expressed sympathy for Jon's vulnerability and commended his willingness to break his silence after so many years. Others were resistant to believe the allegations or felt uncomfortable seeing such private matters aired publicly. This divide revealed how deeply fans invest emotionally in the lives of celebrities, sometimes blurring the line between admiration and personal connection. As conversations unfolded, discussions often touched on the difficulties of maintaining friendships and romance in the spotlight. People debated whether fame inevitably complicates relationships or if personal failures lie beneath the sheen of celebrity glamour. This introspection gave the story broader resonance, elevating it beyond mere gossip to a reflection on human nature and relationships. Although there was a lot of curiosity around the issue, a few of the newspapers still kept their distance and said that involving Diane Lane, who has been very quiet about her personal life compared to the other stars, was very sensitive. The reporters recognized that the publicizing of such matters could inflict pain, and thus they were curious but cautious at the same time. The whole scenario brought out the complicated morals of revealing personal stories which, though not meant for the public eye, are nevertheless, in a way, shareable. The event also brought back the band's history of the Bon Jovi group and the friendship that existed between Jon and Richie Sambora. The fans were allowed to go back through the years of interviews and performances with an almost detective way of looking for signs that could explain the break between the two. It was just like a puzzle where one piece made the whole picture clearer. Thus, it not only added but also changed the emotional atmosphere surrounding what was once called the rock and roll camaraderie to the one of friendship among the musicians. A wide range of fan forums and comment sections turned into places for memory sharing and speculation, while some users remembered the times when there were disagreements in public appearances or statements. This group thinking showed the public perception's dependency on the partial information and the possibility of the new unraveling of personal stories. The effect was not only for the stars but also for their fans, who brutally honest with the issues of distrust and forgiveness. The saga was not merely an entertainment news, but it brought to the surface the questions of loyalty, heartbreak, and the frailty of trust, which caused a lot of discussions. The resonances were already felt to be quite strong and would last even longer than the initial news release. As the public absorbed these reactions, questions naturally turned toward the past whispers and rumors that hinted at conflict between these individuals long before Jon's announcement. Long-standing rumors and speculations. Even before Jon Bon Jovi's candid revelation, whispers of tension and personal drama had occasionally surfaced around the edges of his relationships with Diane Lane and Richie Sambora. Though never confirmed, these rumors persisted quietly among fans and insiders, fueled by ambiguous interviews and subtle public interactions. The seeds of speculation suggested that dynamics behind the scenes were more tangled than they appeared. Over the years, entertainment magazines and gossip columns occasionally hinted at strain within the Bon Jovi camp, particularly focusing on Richie Sambora's exit from the band in 2013. While official reasons often cited professional differences and personal challenges, many suspected deeper personal conflicts played a role. These suspicions gained new meaning after Jon's remarks linked Richie's departure to private betrayals. Rumors connecting Diane Lane to this sensitive story were even more subtle, given her often low-profile stance in the media. Nevertheless, faint suggestions of complicated relationships and emotional turmoil occasionally surfaced, fueling endless speculation among devoted followers. The elusive nature of these hints only made the narrative more tantalizing. Industry insiders sometimes spoke of difficult moments during joint social events or award ceremonies where tensions seemed palpable. Observers noted fleeting glances, awkward exchanges, or changes in group dynamics that suggested underlying friction. These small details, while never publicly acknowledged, contributed to the buildup of long-standing rumors. Fans and critics alike speculated about the impact of these personal struggles on the band's evolution and Jon's creative direction. Some interpreted unexplained absences and shifts in public appearances as signs of unresolved conflicts. In hindsight, these patterns fit into a larger story of fractured trust and emotional pain. Although gossip websites often thrive on embellishment, the persistence of these rumors over time lent credibility to the core of Jon's recent revelations. It showed how some truths can simmer quietly before finally emerging in full view. This reality reminded fans that even the biggest stars face challenges offstage that shape their journeys. The interplay between truth and rumor also highlighted the difficulties celebrities face when managing their private lives amid public scrutiny. Keeping personal conflicts hidden often leads to speculation, which then obscures facts and complicates relationships further. Jon's decision to speak openly seemed to break this cycle. At the same time, reflecting on past rumors underscored how difficult it can be for fans to separate fact from fiction, especially when stories come from different, sometimes unreliable sources. This uncertainty leaves audiences suspended between mystery and clarity, eager for confirmed answers but respectful of personal boundaries. The echoes of these long-standing whispers now took on new significance, coloring everything known about Jon's life and career, and casting a stark light on moments that once seemed unrelated. This backdrop paved the way to explore how these personal challenges influenced Jon Bon Jovi's artistry and professional path. The personal wounds behind the headlines often leave marks far beyond the initial shock. Effects on Jon's music and career. Personal turmoil often leaves deep marks on an artist's work, and Jon Bon Jovi is no exception. Throughout his decades-long career, his music has reflected a wide range of emotions, from triumphant anthems to introspective ballads, and fans have long speculated about the personal experiences that inspired these songs. The revelations about Diane Lane and Richie Sambora cast a new light on some of his creative choices, inviting listeners to consider how betrayal and heartbreak influenced his songwriting. Emotional pain can fuel compelling art, and Jon's career appears intertwined with these complex relationships. The departure of Richie Sambora from the band in 2013 was a major turning point not just professionally, but personally. While the official stories highlighted creative differences and personal priorities, Jon's recent admissions suggest that backstage tensions, including issues involving Diane Lane, contributed significantly. Such strains can erode trust and collaboration, making it challenging to sustain both friendship and artistic partnership under the spotlight. The loss of a longtime creative partner reshaped the Bon Jovi sound and dynamics moving forward. In the years following Richie's exit, Jon's solo work took on a slightly different tone, sometimes more reflective and mature. Fans and critics alike noticed subtle shifts in lyrics and themes, hinting at someone wrestling with personal disappointments and the complexities of relationships. Music became not just a performance, but a channel to process evolving emotions. This artistic evolution mirrored the upheaval he faced in his private life. Beyond music, Jon's public image also transformed as he matured. The youthful rock star gave way to a multifaceted figure, balancing family, philanthropy, and business. Yet beneath this evolution lay unresolved wounds that shaped his worldview. His decision to speak openly about these past betrayals may signify a desire to reclaim his narrative and find healing. Vulnerability became part of his renewed public persona, enriching his connection with fans. Moreover, the intersection of personal life and career highlighted how fame can intensify emotional conflicts. The pressures of maintaining a successful band amid personal disputes can be overwhelming, and Jon's story exemplifies how these challenges ripple through every aspect of an artist's journey. Balancing public expectations with private struggles often requires resilience and reinvention. The fact that Jon continues to make music and go on tours, even with these difficulties, shows how committed and strong he is. Many well-known musicians have turned their misfortunes into creative inspirations, and Jon's story is one of them. His honesty may lead people to accept their weaknesses as a part of their journey to be real, just like he did. Conflicts, like the one mentioned, bring into light the weakness of the long-standing partnerships. Sometimes, the bonding forces that hold the musician and the friend together dissolve when the situation is made more complicated by love relationships and trust issues. The saga of Jon and Richie is a reminder to us that even the most successful partnerships are not crisis-free and might have their moments when the foundation is tested. Hidden by silence, these situations often become apparent only when someone decides to speak up. When one considers these changes in Jon's life, it is evident that personal betrayals were the driving forces not just in the music, but also in the decisions Jon made concerning his life beyond the stage. His forays into acting, charity work, and taking care of his family hinted at his efforts to attain a state of equilibrium and to find significance that was not so overtly seen by the public. Such an attempt is like the peeling of an onion of superstars. Their humanity and the price they pay for the privilege to navigate through the limelight are revealed. In the end, Jon's transparency opens the doors to a more profound interpretation of the interrelationship between personal challenges and the creative output. This bond not only determines the artist's legacy, but also the tales they tell, sometimes long after the mere flicker of the spotlight shining on them. With this in mind, it is important to consider how Diane Lane, Richie Sambora, and others have responded to such a public revelation. Between transparency and restraint. Following Jon Bon Jovi's candid remarks, public attention naturally turned to the responses from Diane Lane, Richie Sambora, and their representatives. Maintaining privacy amid such revelations is a delicate balancing act, and each party handled the situation with different degrees of openness or reservation. The absence of definitive commentary from Diane and Richie added to the complexity and speculation surrounding this story. Diane Lane, known for her preference for keeping her personal life away from the media, has not issued a public statement addressing the allegations. Her silence can be understood as a choice to preserve dignity and privacy, especially given the sensitive nature of the accusations. This approach aligns with her history of rarely discussing intimate details in interviews, focusing instead on her professional accomplishments. Richie Sambora also remained notably quiet on the record. Instead of direct responses, he appeared to focus on his ongoing music projects and time with family. This decision to avoid public confrontation reflects a desire to separate personal matters from professional life. Choosing not to engage publicly may help to contain further speculation and maintain some control over a difficult situation. Representatives for both Diane and Richie have either declined to comment or issued vague statements emphasizing respect for privacy. This official reticence is common when dealing with delicate interpersonal issues, especially those involving multiple high-profile individuals. It signals a preference for handling sensitive matters privately rather than in public forums. Jon Bon Jovi's camp, meanwhile, emphasized the sincerity behind his disclosures, framing them as part of a personal journey rather than a bid for controversy. This positioning helped shape public understanding of his revelation as an act of healing and honesty rather than sensationalism. Such framing likely influenced the nature of reactions from involved parties. The lack of direct denial or rebuttal from Diane and Richie leaves many questions lingering, inviting a spectrum of interpretations from the public and media alike. For some observers, their silence may suggest quiet acceptance, remorse, or even a wish to move on without reopening old wounds. For others, it may simply indicate a refusal to engage with speculation or fuel an already intense media spotlight. This ambiguity adds depth and complexity to the unfolding story, while also honoring the nuances of human emotion and the right to personal boundaries. Commentators have noted that all parties appear to be treading carefully, mindful of the lasting effects such revelations can have on reputations, families, and mental health. In moments like these, discretion becomes not avoidance, but a deliberate act of grace and self-preservation. The way Jon's revelation was handled on all sides highlights the intricate dance celebrities perform between transparency and concealment. For those constantly in the public eye, every word carries weight, and the decision to speak or remain silent can shape reputations for years. Public figures must carefully weigh what to reveal against the potential fallout, knowing that honesty can invite both empathy and scrutiny. Consequently, such revelations are very rare and usually come with a lot of emotional and professional risks. The very difficult conditions have made the story continue to be of great interest, and have also made people think not only about fame, but also about the fight for realness that everyone faces. The silence surrounding these responses invites us to consider what lies beyond the headlines, the private emotions and healing that occur away from the spotlight's glare. Finding strength in the fallout. This revelation from Jon Bon Jovi offers more than just a glimpse into celebrity drama. It underscores the universal challenges of trust, betrayal, and personal resilience. Even figures who seem larger than life face emotional trials that resonate with many. Their experiences remind us that fame does not exempt anyone from heartbreak or complicated relationships. Often, what happens behind closed doors shapes a person more profoundly than any public success. One clear lesson is the importance of vulnerability in healing. Jon's decision to break his silence after decades suggests that carrying such emotional burdens alone can be isolating. Sharing one's truth, though difficult, can open pathways to understanding and closure. This act of honesty may inspire others to confront painful realities in their own lives, rather than suppressing them. The tangled relationships between Jon, Diane, and Richie also highlight how intertwined personal and professional lives can become, especially in industries driven by creative collaboration. Navigating these overlaps requires careful balancing of emotions and boundaries. When trust breaks down within these circles, the fallout touches both personal well-being and professional futures. Recognizing this complexity can foster greater empathy towards those in the public eye. The narrative, however, highlights the very same truth, that how hard it is to draw the complete picture from the partial truths. The overall picture painted by the public often misses the most significant supporting details or angles, which gives rise to misinterpretations or wrong conclusions. The respect for privacy, especially in the midst of conflicts that are not yet resolved, is imperative. It fosters patience and understanding rather than quick judgments about people and their choices. Yet another lesson is taught, that resilience is a double-edged sword, in the sense that it encompasses both confrontation and forgiveness. The disclosures made by Jon do not put an end to the relationships, but give the impression of being a part of a still-going reckoning. The process of healing does not necessarily mean that the past will be forgotten or that the painful acts will be condoned, but it is making room for moving ahead with vigor. This story also deals with the issue of intimacy in relationships under fame that can be considered one of the main factors in the story. The public being there can literally put insecurities under a magnifying glass and complicate the couple's private matters. The recognition of these difficulties is what demystifies the lives of the stars. Thus, the focus is diverted from the scandals towards understanding the real struggles of the stars. Besides, the way this particular narrative developed is an excellent example of how storytelling can define legacy. Jon took control of the timing and manner of disclosing his truth, and thus he also influenced his future remembrance. Being in charge of the story is surely empowering, especially when it is about recovering one's voice after a prolonged silence. It brings to the fore the notion that personal stories are what shape our identities more than our public personas. It is this very episode that leads us to ponder about the aspects of loyalty and trust that have to be present in any relationship. It also raises the question of how to go about the process of rebuilding one's life after betrayal, as well as what the limits are that will keep us safe from more damage. These questions are very much personal, but at the same time, they apply to everyone. In the end, the producer's goodwill gives us not only the opportunity to align ourselves with the most difficult side of human relations, the suffering, the pardon, and the hope for brighter times. Although his experience is linked to the world of celebrity, it still speaks of a reality that is shared by both the famous and the ordinary. Jon Bon Jovi's unexpected revelation shows us that even the brightest stars face dark, complicated moments. It's a powerful reminder of the human stories behind the headlines, stories filled with struggle, growth, and resilience. If you found this story compelling, please like the video and subscribe for more deep dives into the lives behind the fame. Thanks for watching, and watch the next video shown on the screen for more insights and untold stories from the world of music and celebrity.